Welcome, connoisseurs and lovers of RPGs. It's the co-host of RPG Archive, unofficially of course, Teddy. And I'm here with my friend and fellow unofficial co-host, Alex. What's up, Alex?
The co-host.
Co-host.
Two times removed. I'm happy to be back on RPG Archive. I haven't been back on here in a bit. I think since like the Nier episode or maybe Persona 5. I forget which one of those we did last. In honor of Spencer, I'm drinking some sweet tea out of my Kingdom Hearts 2 cup. I know how much of a big Kingdom Hearts fan and RPG fan he is. So.
That's a game he will probably never cover here. So it's good you got some representation. I'm drinking tea out of a Kirby mug. Two things Terry likes. What's up, Terry? Although I don't think he likes the game we're going to talk about today. It's Shin Megami Tensei 4. A classic. As many of you know, I am a lover of the Shin Megami Tensei series. It's all love here, baby. And I've covered Nocturne and SMT 5 with him, with Spencer, and you've done Persona 5 with him as well. He did not show up for Shin Megami Tensei 4 today, which we'll address in a moment. But before we do, be sure to check out Spencer's RPG Archive Discord, where he is going to do a Q&A. And also, he started a new series, What's That Game? It's a mystery, but you might find out today. And, of course, check us out on the Button Mappers. We do great things. So,
I hope the game's Gex.
Is there an RPG? Oh, yeah, Button Mappers. Maybe check out Brian for that. We got a little video presentation for Spencer. He did not show up to play Shin Megami Tensei 4 with us. And so I wanted to know why, Spencer. Why won't you play Shin Megami Tensei 4? So he has sent us a video, and I'm very excited to show it. I am just pulling up the video that he sent. Alex, can you confirm that you have a video of Spencer in a tank top on your screen?
I see this handsome man.
All right, let's check out why Spencer's not doing SMT 4.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Teddy. I hope you guys are having a great time archiving Shin Megami Tensei 4. You're probably wondering why I'm not on this episode, the viewers specifically. Well, there's a couple reasons. So around the time we were kicking around doing this game, Alex had already completed it, and Teddy has already in the past completed it and was excited to play it again. Therefore, it would have taken me the longest amount of time to complete, and you know, I'd have to dedicate a lot just because I've never done it before. Which I do intend to play it. I love SMT, so I'm more than happy to jump in again. But for me, it would have been probably a 50-hour plus experience, whereas the others Teddy could breeze through it much faster. Also, Teddy and I have already done 3 and 5, and he's more of the SMT guy than I am. So, you know, I don't know what more I can add to the conversation. Whereas Alex, I think, offers like a really fresh perspective on the genre and on SMT in general. So I think it'd be way more interesting to hear what he has to say than what I have to say. And I was really excited to hear what Teddy would come up with as far as your questions and how he did the notes in the back. So really excited to hear what you guys have come up with. I'm not sure if you are just starting it or if you're starting with this and going later, or this is at the end. But I can't wait to see the archive you guys come up with. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And thanks so much for doing it for my channel. So I'll see you guys in the next archive. Good luck and have fun.
There's a little word from
Spencer's
our sponsor. Spencer?
From Spencer's mouth to everybody's ear holes. I finished an RPG!
Fresh take, Alex. Super cool. Well, not really because he's not here, but I'm glad he's going to play it eventually. I figure we should start with that because, you know, the viewers should probably know why the creator of this channel is like not here. Well, There he was. I hope you do play it, Spencer. I hope you like the episode. And yeah, Alex did you one up this time, so
We can influence him to play it.
yeah, that's true. Well, it might be halfway between my playtime and your playtime, which mine was about 40 hours and yours was like a year. So like maybe half a year, Spencer.
It did take me almost exactly a year to beat it.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of tap into that. You know, like what was that like for you? Ready to get started?
Ready to capture some demons.
Yeah. Welcome to the world of demons. We're talking Shin Megami Tensei 4. Development of SMT4 began around August 2009, almost a little over 10 years ago. And that was after development had finished on Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey for the DS. And the development lasted 3.5 years. I believe this was the first SMT game on 3DS, although I might be mistaken. We have the list down here.
I think like Survivor overclocked.
Yeah, and we have that list, so we'll see if it's there. Now, there was a 10-year gap in the mainline games, so Nocturne had come out in 2003, and it had been 10 years until Shin Megami Tensei 4 was released. And their reason for that, according to Wikipedia, was that the company had made other successful titles in that 10-year frame, and they didn't have time to develop Shin Megami Tensei 4 as well. Although at the 6-year mark in 2009, they had begun the development. So I wanted to begin this episode by looking at what are some of the notable Atlus titles that were developed between 2003 and 2013. Can you read them off for us, Alex?
Absolutely. While I don't know all of these games, I know a fair bit of them. The first one I actually don't know is Growlancer 4, 2003 on PS2. I don't know if that's a big deal or not. We have Trauma Center. This is under the knife on DS, but I guess just all of those, like all 4 or 5 of those Trauma Center games, which were a big deal on the Wii and DS. Persona 3 on the PS2 in 2006. Etrian Odyssey on DS in 2007. Odin Sphere, I like that one a lot, on PS2 in 2007. Persona 4 on PS2 in 2008. SMT Strange Journey, which I'm currently playing, on DS in 2009. Radiant Historia on DS in 2009. Catherine on PS3 and 360 in 2011. SMT Devil Survivor Overclocked and whatever on the DS in 2011. Etrian Odyssey 4 on the DS, sorry, on the 3DS in 2012, and Devil Summoner's Soul Hackers on the 3DS in 2012.
Right, they were no slouches. And I mean, if you look at that list, I mean, even like just those 3 3DS games coming out back to back, like, you know, it's almost it's giving me like those Pokemon vibes where like a new Pokemon comes out every year, except just like every game is good.
Sure. A lot of these I know are developed in-house. I think a couple of them aren't. Like Odin Sphere, I think that's Vanilla or whatever the hell they're called. I don't know who does Etrian Odyssey, do you know? I mean, you should know, right?
Yeah, I believe that's also just Atlus. Atlus published, Atlus developed.
Yeah. So most of these are in-house games.
Yeah, and you know, and looking at these games, these are not like light games. Like Persona 4, that's like a full-fledged RPG. Etrian Odyssey is like a little more simplistic, I guess, but it's still like its own developed game, and it was a new concept at the time. Trauma centers are a bit more like gimmicky for the system, but I think people really like them. And I think there's kind of like that kind of animated Japanese style that is kind of borrowed in like this game and other SMT games that kind of took off in the Trauma Center era.
Yeah, I noticed that. I played one of the Trauma Centers on Wii, and while playing this game, I was like, "Holy shit, that looks like a Trauma Center."
So, needless to say, I think it's understandable that, like, you know, they had the 10-year gap since they had all of these in between. Like, this is a solid decade for Atlus. So I forgive them if anybody blame them. No, who needs forgiveness? I don't even think they need forgiveness for it. I thank them. Thank you, Atlus.
Yeah, there's a lot of games, especially for the DS and 3DS platforms. So a lot
That's
of
true.
lot of Atlas.
A lot of Atlus. Oh yeah. Shin Megami Tensei 4 was developed by a lot of Atlus members, and especially a lot who had worked on Nocturne as well. There is an article by Nintendo Life titled Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne Maniacs Director Returns for Shin Megami Tensei 4. And then I believe a lot of the staff had returned to work on this game. And so I want to talk about a couple of those people, and we can kind of just say what we think. The character and demon designer Masayuki Doi from the Trauma Center series was brought back for SMT4. The director Kazuyuki Yamai, who had worked on Nocturne Maniacs and the Raito Kuzunoa games, was back for this game. Art director Eiji Ishida, who also worked on Nocturne and Strange Journey. The composer was Ryota Kozuka, who worked on who's on the Trauma Team and Soul Hackers opening theme. The main programmer, Satoshi Oyama, was the programmer for Nocturne Maniacs and the Raito games. Sound director, Kenichi Tsuchiya, from the SMT series and Persona series. A couple notable demon designs and the creators. Raphael, who's one of the angels, is done by Keita Amamiya, who's worked on Kamen Rider, Zio, and Zyram. Omoi Kane I think that's like the little like radish fire thing. I'm not really sure. Is Yoshihiro Nishimura, Tokyo Gore Police, and Vampire Girl vs. Frankenstein Girl. That sounds amazing.
Favorite.
Kue Biko, who I think is like the trash monster demon, like eats people, was done by Kyoma Aki from Gadanar and Persona 4 the anime. Saburo Koga, I'm trying to remember, he looked kind of like one of those samurai, like human-like demons, was done by Tamotsu Shinohara from Kamen Rider 555 and Kamen Rider Ryuki. And then Asmodeus, I think he's like one of the more demonic, devilish demons, was designed by Yasushi Nirasawa from Kamen Rider Blade and Kamen Rider Kabuto. What are your thoughts on some of the staff working on the SMT4 game?
Well, I'm not familiar with any of them, but I was just talking about the fact that I thought that some of the characters look like Trauma Center characters. That's funny that I see that the person that did the art, the character and demon designs, was from the Trauma Center team. I think this would mean a lot more to me if I played Nocturne, because I see a lot of Nocturne stuff here.
Yeah, that's true. And Maniacs, I think that's the one that swapped Dante out with Raito Kuzunoa. So the Raito Kuzunoa games are really worth playing and downloading on PS3 if you have the service or the internet connection for it. And that one has like kind of the darker style that I feel like is adopted. Maybe some of the more like narrative development that you don't really see in Nocturne as much. Nocturne is like more, I would say, ambiguous in terms of meaning. It lets you kind of grasp at meaning in your own ways. It doesn't really detail too much of the characters or anything. Whereas Nocturne really feels like a lived-in world with like a detective and like people who are like, you know, undergoing these like traumatic experiences, for lack of a better term. So I think that like the Raito influence is very clear for me. I don't know anything about Kamen Rider other than the character looks like Ultraman.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know it's huge, and Japan. In fact, and game that I played last year, No More Heroes 3, they can't shut up about Kamen Rider. I'm just like, I know nothing about Kamen Rider.
I like Ultraman. Like, I'm a fan.
Yeah, I like what do they call that genre? The tokusatsu, like characters and stuff. Like I like that genre, but I don't know anything about Kamen Rider.
I don't know that genre. Is that like larger than life or something?
Oh, that's like Ultraman. I think that is like the not Power Rangers, but you know what they're adapted from. I forget what that's called. that series. You know, just like the heroes and the costumes. Like
Yeah.
that's tokusatsu.
Oh, I see.
And
Cool. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the voice casting for Shin Megami Tensei 4. Just off the bat, the voice casting was like one of the most impressionable things for me at the time when I first played this game. I did not expect it to be like so engrossing and to kind of bring some of these characters to life. It's not to say I loved everyone's like scripted dialogue per se, although there were a couple of funny parts. But I think the voice acting was really well done. So I'm not really looking at the Japanese voice actors so much as the English voice cast. And when we looked at a couple of them, there were some interesting commonalities. So I'll just read a couple of the names off that were involved in the project, and then we'll talk about a couple of the major ones. So going down from top to bottom alphabetically, it's Ali Hillis, Bryce Pappenbrook, David Lodge, Derek Stephen Prince, Doug Airholtz, Eden Regal, Aaron Fitzgerald, J.B. Blanc, Jamieson Price, Jessica Strauss, Karen Strassman, Keith Silverstein, Kirk Thornton, Kyle Hebert, Laura Bailey, Liam O'Brien, Matthew Mercer, Orion Akaba, or Asaba, I'm not sure how to say that, Patrick Seitz, I don't know, Richard Epcar, and Travis Willingham. Which of the voice actors stood out to you?
the only one that I know offhand is Liam O'Brien because he's been in a lot of stuff. You know that name.
And he's done one of your favorite characters in this game.
Oh yeah,
Fuckboy Navarre.
But I know Fuckboy Navarre. But I know Liam O'Brien's been in a lot of stuff. And let me click on his thing. I'll tell you if I know him from anything. I think I know Matthew Mercer for something else too.
When we looked at this, there were a lot of commonalities, especially for the Isabeau, Walter, and Jonathan characters. Mercer had done Walter, who I was a big fan of his voice acting here, and he appeared in like the Resident Evil 6 or 5 games, Revelations, I think. There were a couple other ones. There was crossover with Final Fantasy voiceovers. It was really impressive to see the shared usage of these characters across series. Mercer was the one that had surprised me the most. I think he was like, I gotta open his page as well. But if you go to video games, he's got like a whole anthology of games he's in. He was in Skylanders. He was in The Last of Us doing voice acting. Like, additional parts, but it's still really impressive. And then I guess they listed as dubbing as well, because technically this is dubbing. He was in Call of Duty games. He was in Batman.
Oh, that's okay. I was trying to figure out where Liam O'Brien. He's Grimoire Vice and Nier. In book. That name because he's somebody that actually like people wouldn't shut up about. I mean, I think it was Terry maybe. She couldn't shut up about Liam O'Brien and while I was doing my stream of that game. So Infinite Sonic Forces for anybody that cares.
Dude, Mercer was Espio.
Yeah, the gang's all here.
The gang's all here.
But so those are definitely two bigger ones that I know offhand. But I'm not like a voice actor guy. I'm sure if you hand this list to BioPhoenix or something, yeah, he'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, this person was in this thing,"
Yeah, it's nice to see, and I mean, I don't know, I personally really like the voice acting. How did you feel about Liam O'Brien as Navarre?
I think he did the role the way he was supposed to, which is insufferable. But which is a lot of his characters actually. That's like I just noticed that because like that's what like Grimoire Vice is in Nier. He's like in a really uppity character, but I was really surprised with the voice cast for this game and how good it was, and also like the fact that you're while they're talking, you're looking at still images, but just the voice cast had the ability to bring the characters to life, and that really helped me attach myself to the characters more than probably just reading dialogue would.
Yeah, I think that was a pitfall of a later SMT game on 3DS because they did not get a dubbing cast. It was whatever the one in Antarctica is.
It's the one that I'm playing, right? That Strange Journey.
Yeah, when they remade it for 3DS or remastered it, they gave it voice acting because the DS version didn't have any, but the voice acting was only in Japanese. And the Japanese voice acting was just jarring because we're going to get into this in a minute, but the character portrayals are kind of like they look more European than they do Japanese. So when you're putting like Japanese voices to it, I don't know, it just didn't click with me. And then you send them like to Antarctica, like it was very bizarre to me. I couldn't put my head around that concept. And also the fact that you're like paying extra for a remake like kind of sours that experience too.
Yeah, I'm playing the original version of Strange Journey on DS, so don't have the Japanese voice acting, and without an English voice cast, I have found myself like not really attaching to characters, or like I have trouble identifying characters. Like they'll be talking about a certain character in like a cutscene that hasn't been up in a while, and since I haven't heard their voice or anything, I just forgot who the hell they were. It's just like who is that again? But I feel like that didn't happen with this game a lot of the time, even if it was a character I haven't seen in a while, and the voice cast was very distinct, and I could tell who it was. Oh yeah, this character.
I'm glad you're talking about characters because we're going to actually talk about the design of those characters. Masayuki Doi, he started out as kind of like more of a individual like sprite animator in early on in the series, and he's kind of come up on his way through the series, and to see him kind of leading the art design in this game is a nice sight. He has a quote. I don't think we have the website here, but that's okay. I'll read it to you. To capture the character's distinct samurai style in the medieval-inspired Eastern Kingdom of Mikado, Doi was challenged with retaining the Japanese elements of culture, but also making the characters fit into their environment. He said he kept both the European and Japanese influences in mind, and his goal was to come up with something creative when combining the two styles. To help meet his vision, he watched many Japanese samurai movies and films set in Europe. He was even inspired by Star Wars and said the characters' stances with swords are throwbacks to the lightsaber. He mused that the character's samurai mission reminded him of the Jedi Order. What do you think about... Oh, that's from Polygon. Thank you. What do you think about this description of the art design for Shin Megami Tensei 4?
I was very surprised about the Star Wars aspect. Whenever I started reading, but I can see that. But I really liked the European influences in this game. That was something that like outsider looking in SMT, because this is my first full SMT game. SMT to me is looked like, I don't know, like its contemporaries with like Japanese anime artwork. And starting this game up and having the characters feel more like European and feel more, I guess, I don't know what you call it, like medieval maybe, or more like knights and stuff. And it was very jarring from what I knew the SMT or Persona games, that whole...
Your mic cut out. Pardon the interruption, ladies and gentlemen. This is a not so common occurrence, but we will be back with the regularly scheduled program momentarily as soon as Alex is able to diagnose the problem going on in his microphone. He seems to have gotten really into the commentary. I am patiently commentating the action on screen that you are seeing live in this very moment. Archiving the RPG. No, Alex, we still cannot hear you. I would love it if we could, because I'm running out of things to say. But This is the content that we came for, folks. Bear with us patiently. The time minute is 25 minutes. So, Spencer, if you wanna if you wanna cut this one out, by all means. Either way, I don't think it'll be too bad. Now I'm by myself, just me and myself. No, nobody left. I'm doing the archive alone. Hello, hello. It's me. It's me. And Alex is back.
Yes, I don't know. I just like touched my microphone and it just freaked the hell out.
Oh well.
Something came unplugged, but I was just like, What?"
I managed to commentate up until the second you got back, and then I ran out of things.
Anyway, what I was saying is that from an outsider looking in, the SMT and Persona subset always looked very anime to me, and I was surprised by the characters and art going into this feeling more European.
Yeah, I think the influence is kind of trickled down too, because obviously, well, plot spoilers. I mean, this is what you came here for. But once you leave the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado, you're in Japan. So there is this contrast of like the romantic European kind of Renaissance style with, modern day Tokyo. And it's very interesting to see them posited next to each other, and the meanings are kind of like encapsulated in both. At one point, they're talking about book burning, in Mikado. And I think that's kind of like an antiquated concept, but still relevant today. And it's, you see like the Tokyo as the representation of that modernity. Also, like, we don't really have a section on the music here, but I think like some of the things that you hear, the music that you hear playing when you're in the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado feels more orchestrated, just from the instruments that you hear, to like the ballads and the melodies. I think of just being on the menu when you're in Mikado, and you're going like through the castle, and like some of the sounds you hear, bump bum bum bump bum bum bum. I feel like this is the only game I've heard bagpipes in.
It subverts the fish out of water cliche. Usually in a fish out of water story, take Persona 5, or for example, it'd be a character from Tokyo or from Japan or something being brought into this fantastic world. It's actually quite the opposite. There's these characters from this fantastic kingdom being brought into Tokyo. I found that to be very refreshing because it really does subvert what you would normally expect from that kind of story.
Yeah, that's such a Japanese thing too. I don't know if you ever watched Ron by Kurosawa, but that subverts the King Lear narrative by Shakespeare, where instead of a king letting go of his three daughters, I think it's like the opposite or something. But it's nice to see that for sure. Oh no, it's the king and his three sons, and then versus, I think in Ron, his three daughters or something. Anyways, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. The Star Wars thing is also pretty huge. How can you see the Star Wars connection?
That's a little rough for me, and Star Wars is my religion, by the way. Is like it's I don't know. I guess I understand the Jedi Order, and also with like the Knights within the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado, but I'm not sure beyond that point. Maybe that was just like the influence was just Jedi Order. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
That's a hard one for me to latch on to. Yeah.
I guess you
Star
could
Wars
say
is my religion, so I should know.
Yeah, I guess what the quote is, he was even inspired by Star Wars, and so the characters' stances with swords are throwbacks to the lightsaber. But they've been saying that like, Star Wars was inspired by Kurosawa's Hidden Figures, where they used swords and the lightsabers were swords. And now we're going back to, okay, anything that has a sword is a lightsaber. I don't know. Like, it's at some point we have to like, just because we have similar weapons does not mean it's a Star Wars clone. Like, I don't know.
I think a lot of artists are guilty of that. Just like I think Star Wars is such a hot buzzword anyway. you know, just to be like, bam, inspired by Star Wars, you know, and be like, oh, I relate to that, you know.
Pshoo, pshoo. Yeah, that's a difficult connection. Speaking of difficulty, Shin Megami Tensei is notorious for being extremely freaking difficult. And as a way to accommodate new players, the gameplay difficulty was designed to be adjustable so that players would be more welcome to the game. That being said, SMT4 is not necessarily easy. To the benefit of players, a recommended fusion feature was added after seeing that a lot of players who are new to the series would not fuse their demons. That one's bizarre to me. What do you think about the difficulty in Shin Megami Tensei 4?
How did you adjust the difficulty?
By dying in normal mode.
Well, I don't think mine counted because when I died, I would just close the game and load up from where I saved. So, don't know how. Maybe I played the game wrong, but that's neat though. Recommended fusion thing's interesting to me because even playing Strange Journey right now, I still fuse demons. I think that's like one of the most fun parts about these games, anyway. You know, so the fact that there's people that just wouldn't do it, that's like getting Pokemon and just, you know, not evolving them. You know, and just that's sort of the fun of these kind of games is the crazy powered demons and monsters and stuff.
Yeah, it's like people just completely miss like the fusion feature in the game. Well, I think one of the things that maybe some previous games were not as clear on was like the methods for doing that. I remember when I first played Nocturne, I didn't even know how to recruit a demon, let alone fuse them. And so like I think some of the menu options were obscure, but in this game it was a little more transparent and obvious. With regards to the difficulty, this game has the benefit of you being able to save anywhere at any time. Nothing is stopping you at any step that you take. So, you know, you're able to reboot at any time from your save point. It's just that if you forget to save and then you die, it's game over. You know?
That's something that's hit me like a ton of Ricks playing Strange Journey because I cannot save anywhere, and I got so accustomed to that playing 4 that I've had some long stretches in Strange Journey where I haven't been able to save, and I faced some pretty powerful, you know, demons, and I'm just like, please God, let me save.
Oh yeah. If you do game over, though, you get the added benefit of being able to pay Sharon, Karen? I don't think it's Karen. Karen?
Karen. It's got the head Karen haircut.
The male Karen. You get to pay Sharon for your life back. He's on the River Styx, and there's a bunch of souls down there. But you can also pay in play coins, which you earn by walking with your 3DS. So say you don't want to spend your hard-earned Maka in the game. I found that a really nice way of coming back to life. Did you ever use that feature?
Oh, early 3DS Nintendo. No, I did see it was a thing. And I have a ton of play coins. I did see it was a thing, but again, like I said, I would just reload when I died. So didn't really need it. But that was cool. And did you ever like do anything with play coins? Because whenever I was youngin and I first got the 3DS, like the year it came out, I was super into like, getting play coins and stuff because they had like the Mi Plaza thing, you can play with them and stuff. And so if I would have played this back then, I probably would have taken advantage of that because I thought it was such a cool feature.
Yeah, even with the modern 3DS, the max number of play coins you can get from walking a day is 10. And you get them for every one coin for every 100 steps you take. So you take 1,000 steps, you get 10 play coins. Usually to revive, it's like 11 play coins, 17 play coins, something like that. So it's not something you could just get like overnight, which is kind of nice. I did use play coins sometimes for the Mi Plaza, but in New York it's easier to street pass, so I was able to get the puzzle pieces a little better. But nowadays, I think they've pretty much canceled Street Plaza. So like you can't get like there's an update. So like you can't even get new puzzle pieces. So I got street passes recently and they were completely useless. This is tangent, but basically I've had nothing to use my play coins on anyway, and you can have a max of 300 on the system. So it actually came in handy for me for this playthrough and for other playthroughs, because I would be, just like, oh shit, I forgot to save, and I just fused these cool demons, and I beat this hard boss, and I was really appreciative of that. And plus, I don't like spending my maca on things I don't need to, because things are expensive in this game. If you want to summon demons, you got to pay for it. Everything's earned in this type of game.
Yeah, I currently have 218 play coins on my console. But neat feature. Something that Nintendo was creative about. A lot of that stuff early on the 3DS. So it's cool to see them take advantage of it.
I don't think I saw any video games besides this one really take advantage of it, though.
I don't think so. I saw stuff use Street Pass all the time. Certain games would have Street Pass features, but I don't think I saw many use the play coins. And I didn't know. Again, I used it for. They had Find Me, which was the Me RPG thing you could play. I mainly used it for that, to like summon bees and stuff. But I don't think I saw many of the games use play coins. I wonder which ones did.
We know SMT4 did. I want to go grab a water bottle. Can you entertain the viewers for like 60 seconds? Okay.
Yeah. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime. Yeah. Something to something, something. I don't know how the song goes. Maybe my heart's on fire. Just imagine I have a top hat, a cane. Something, you lose me, honey, you choose me. There he is. There's the man.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my Clementine.
You know that cartoon with the frog?
Yeah. Hello, to be mine. Hello, my Clementine.
Oh, that guy.
Alex, can you walk us through the inspiration from director Yamai on Shin Megami Tensei?
William Hung. Hung's inspiration. Yamai, am I saying that right? Of inspiration. Simplest of terms, the concept here was to make this a punk kind of game. I can get behind that. He replied, if you look at the first Shin Megami Tensei, which came out on the Super Nintendo 20 years ago, it was a completely different game from the fantasy RPGs of the time. It was very much the antithesis of that and had this sort of punk spirit as a result. Yeah, sorry. I want to make a game that speaks to people's viewpoints and values, one that sort of traumatizes its players in a good way.
Love me a good trauma.
He's speaking my language.
Oh yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm into. The kind of games where it's traumatizes the player in a good way. I've never heard anybody say that before, but I think I totally understand what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, Nintendo, traumatize me.
And the punk attitude, I really got that. I think a lot of this is what also helped to suck me in, because I never played an SMT game, but I think even this statement still applies to this game as well, to SMP4, because it is not like its contemporaries. It's not like most fantasy RPGs. Yeah, and I found it to be very refreshing. In a world of Etrian Odysseys and Dragon Quest. I'm trying to think what was on 3DS. This game stands out for that reason.
Yeah, I don't know what other game has you killing your comrades. Like, it's just where the gravity of everything is just magnificent. Like, the fate of the world, even if it's just Japan, is in your hands. And that's really so felt. It's really been that way for the whole series for me, but I think this game had this sort of perfection to it, and it really is like you're being torn between two forces, And it is, it's so different from your kind of like charming, happy slime in Dragon Quest. If you compare it to the slime in this game, it looks like a demonic, like disambiguous creature, or a malformation, you know? And it's like, what am I playing? You're playing something with like literal mythological demons and making them your partners. And then the other crazy thing is like, no matter what side you pick, with maybe the neutral ending aside for now, it never really feels like there is a right decision.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that. I've never heard him talk about it. Maybe it's, I don't know, because he works for Square Enix or something. But a lot of this reminded me of like Yoko Taro stuff, where there's no clear like good or bad, And like whenever you're making a choice, it's not like one's highlighted green and one's highlighted red, and you can just make the good choice or the bad choice. And a lot of times, I felt like the game did a good job at just, I guess, tricking me for like, even if I was trying to make a good choice, I might make the wrong choice, and that's very interesting to me. I find that games that just highlight this is the good one, this is the bad one, to be boring. And yeah, that was very cool.
We have another quote here. Kazuma Kaneko, the series' main demon designer and story guy, is back for this game as well. Something you can tell Yamai definitely digs. Personally speaking, he said, one of the reasons I decided I wanted to join Atlus was because while I was job hunting, I read an interview in Famitsu with Kaneko. He was dressed in all black for this interview, and I thought, wow, this must be a really crazy place to work. I guess I've always been attracted to this punk atmosphere that way, and that's from Polygon. So it's nice to see that it kind of like trickles down from the creators. I know that Kaneko was like the artist for the series, and so he had done a lot of the speaking and interviews for Nocturne, and so I don't know. I mean, it's cool to see like, that there's this kind of culture of people who fit in at the company. Sounds like a great place to work.
Yeah, sounds nice. Like I said, I enjoy them throwing around the word punk, because that is a lot of what this like how this game feels. Very punk, down to the music, the character designs, the narrative.
Yeah,
it's a nice way to describe that.
Let's talk about the release. Shin Megami Tensei 4 was developed and published by Atlus in North America by Atlus USA, and in EU regions, Deep Silver. Director was Kazuyuki Yamai, programmer Satoshi Oyama, artists Eiji Ishida and Masayuki Doi, writers Shinji Yamamoto and Kazuyuki Yamai, composers Ryota Kozuka, Kenichi Tsuchiya, Toshiki Konishi from the Megami Tensei series, published on the 3DS exclusively. It was released in Japan in May of 2013, in North America in July of 2013, and in Europe in October of 2014. The genre is role-playing, and it is a single-player game. Where were you when Shin Megami Tensei 4 first released?
Where were you on the day? 13. July 16th. That was the summer right after my senior year of high school. And yeah, that would have been like prime 3DS time for me. Didn't pick this up though because I didn't know anything about SMT. I was probably playing Pokemon or some shit. I don't know when it came out. I think it might have been like the end of the year, but I was very much active. I think this might have been like the time of Animal Crossing. I think because I'm trying to think like what I was playing at that time. Probably Animal Crossing New Leaf. But yeah, I was an active 3DS user.
Yeah, about the same for me. I definitely was around the time of Animal Crossing because I remember getting a 3DS for Pokemon X, downloading Animal Crossing as my first game, and I was looking for other games, and I downloaded this like combo pack of SMT4 and Fire Emblem Awakening. And then I just had not played an RPG in like 10 years or something like within that time frame. And this game just handed me my own ass. And I was like, I got to put this down for like another 5 years. And I beat it later. But yeah, that was just like a time to be a 3DS owner. We
Like
have some.
Nintendo
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
really pushed that game then.
This one, you mean?
Yeah, if they're bundling it with Fire Emblem, I feel like they really pushed it.
Yeah, they did this weird digital bundle. I don't know why I bought it. It was like $80 for like a digital thing. Like that was a steal. And really,
I mean,
like,
both games are no, not really. Well, I think
at the time they were. This was a $50 game, and Fire Emblem was $40, and all new 3DS games were $40.
yeah.
But
I was trying to remember how much 3DS games were.
they were $40, but now SMT4 on the shop is like $30 or $20 or something. So, I kind of got ripped off a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, I just wanted to play something.
Oh, by the way, Deep Silver published Minor Number 9. So, sorry, pal.
Yeah, we had some voiceover connections to Mighty Number 9 as well, too.
Sorry, pal. Got a year later.
Hopefully they didn't screw it up too bad. Can you tell us about the first week of release?
Yeah. First week of release in Japan, the game topped the weekly charts of sales with, was that 100, whatever, 100,000 copies, basically. Taking the PS3 exclusive Common Rider, there it is again, Batride War? I don't know what the fuck that is. And the PS3 port of Resident Evil Revelations, which was a 3DS game that I played. So that's pretty cool. Top of weekly charts in Japan.
Yeah, I think Nocturne was called Game of the Week at one point in one of the publication magazines. Like, what a title. But 188,000 copies is nothing to scoff at. In fact, I think it's a third of the total sales were completed in the first week. And, I guess to be recognized in Japan, that's a pretty good thing. To be the top game in Japan for a week. And then to think of, like, the competition at that time was Kamen Rider and Resident Evil Revelations. Like, it must have been a slow year for Japan. I didn't know.
Yeah, that one's weird because Revelations is just like it was just a 3DS port, so I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it must have been a slow week. Oh, you also had Tamagotchi Collection New Life. So.
Yeah,
thank God.
Like 60,000, whatever.
God.
In a later assessment, this was cited as Atlus' second best-selling title in recent history, just 4,000 units behind the debut sales of Persona 4 in 2008. We looked it up. The numbers total-wise, for comparison, SMT4 outsold Persona 4 on the PS2 as a whole, but it was still second in terms of weekly sales. But since then, a couple games have topped the charts, including Persona 5, Persona 5 Strikers, and SMT 5, just to name a few. How do you feel about
Persona
this?
5 and SMT...
Sorry. Go ahead. Don't worry about it.
I was going to say Persona 5 and SMT 5 don't surprise me, but Strikers does. Man, people really like those the Muso games.
Yeah, I guess, and they also like the Persona games, so, I mean, it makes sense. How do you feel about this being one of Atlus' best-selling titles?
Having played it, I think it's well deserved. I think it deserves more. We'll talk about that later, I guess, in a way. But I think this game deserves a bit more time to shine, especially now that I guess Persona 5 and SMT 5 have really pushed this series to I guess the peak of its popularity now.
Good point. By the end of 2013, the game had sold 251,000 copies in Japan and was the country's 30th best-selling video game of the year. By January 2014, excuse me, it's really dry in here. The game had sold 90,000 copies in the United States since its release in July, and by July 2015, over 600,000 copies have been sold worldwide, which is the VG charts data. What do you think about 600,000 copies? as a
Pretty.
total sale number.
That's fair. Again, I don't know how. I think the SMT series would still be considered like a niche at this point. But honestly, surprised it's not a little more for the U.S. sales because it was around the time like the 3DS was really picking up in popularity. I think we had just gotten like the XL models. Again, Animal Crossing, Pokemon was that year. Fire Emblem. So I'm surprised that the sales weren't a little higher just from people having the console and needing something to play.
As a point of comparison, Etrian Odyssey at its peak sold like, I think it was like just around 200,000 copies or something. Total. I don't think there was one that had sold better than that. So I guess it's not that much more. It's triple that, which makes sense because it's a more developed game. But even so, it's kind of low. I should look that up real quick on VG charts just to make sure I'm not speaking out of my ass.
On your ass. And I would just go on to say though, I think also a lot of the sales of RPGs during this time is just it feels like the reflection of just the era we were in. We were still in that like 360 PS3 era at this point. We were just getting out of it, and I don't feel like Japanese RPGs really took off again until the next generation. But, the 3DS probably has something to do with that too. So this game,
Yeah,
in some way, kind of contributed to the rise of the JRPG again.
that's a good point. Etrian Odyssey had the first game had sold 330,000 total. It was like 200,000 in the U.S. And then I want to just see what the breakdown is regionally for SMT4. So it doesn't say. It just says that total units is 600,000. So it's what it is. I imagine most of it was in Japan. But I don't think it went ignored here. But still, a little low for U.S. standards. All right. You want to walk us through the game? Through the plot?
Your swords. Get ready to talk to some demons. We're hopping into SMT4.
Yeehaw.
Start with the plot. Right. Ready for story time. Eastern Kingdom of Mikado and hunting samurai make their way into Tokyo, where the humans are overrun by demons. So that's sort of like the gist of the game, right?
Yeah.
Which we touched upon that earlier when I was talking about like how it kind of subverts the fish out of water narrative.
I think we can kind of really dig into the story here, though, which is exciting. I remember the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado being this kind of like uppity, like noble class of people. I forget what they call them. They're like these aristocrats. And then there's this like commentary where like Jonathan represents the nobility and Walter kind of represents like the commoner who becomes a samurai. There's a tradition at the beginning of every year where a group of kids are brought in as samurai. They're given a gauntlet, which goes on their arm. There's like a big cutscene for it when the main character, Flynn, gets his gauntlet. And the residents of Mikado, the samurai, are sent into Naraku, which is like kind of the demon pit, to fight off demons and get supplies to bring back to Mikado. How did you feel about the setting early on in the game?
They're called luxurers. Luxurers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they're called? Okay, I was trying to think. Yeah. Again, it was very cool. Like the setting was nothing like I had seen from just what I've known from like other SMT or Persona games. So it was really refreshing at first, even though it was a tad bit confusing with navigating. Man, trying to navigate those menus to get around Mikado is kind of annoying. But, really did like the setting and the story. like being chosen for to be a samurai. You also have like I guess it's like your childhood best friend who doesn't get chosen. So that was kind of that was a neat. You always see that in like anime and Japanese media, like the childhood best friend trope. But I did like the narrative of being like recruited as a samurai. And then there's also like you talked about the going into the demon pit to get stuff. That was cool. That was really cool to me because I was not expecting the game to feel that, I guess, fleshed out, that like console like. When you're actually running around the dungeons in the areas. Because it kind of just does feel like a console RPG in the palm of your hands, which was very cool. So that going there, that was like the first moment that I really, I guess, felt that playing the game. I don't know how much else you want to go into with the Mikado section of the game.
Yeah, I do want to just touch into Naruku briefly because you're going to spend the first like 5 to 9 hours there. I know I did. In Mikado, Kichijorji Forest, and Naruku. Naruku can be a pain in the ass. I kind of hated navigating some parts of it. I got kind of lost because you got to like jump through some pits, go around these weird stairs. And there are some very hard bosses early on in the game, but you really see what you're up against, when you fight these kind of like mid bosses. The game is littered with like these like famous mid bosses early in the game, and we're going into spoiler territory here. So, by all means, if you want to play this game, do so. But I remember fighting the Minotaur. I remember fighting Medusa. I remember just recruiting demons and kind of reading up on them. It gives you like little histories to each of them. And it's really nice to see kind of like the multiple inspirations for all of the demons. It is nice to see that kind of full-fledged 3D environment in Naruku. Although the demons themselves, it's a bit lacking at this point because they kind of look like polygon figures. Versus if you play SMT5, you see like the actual demons on the screen. It's a totally different experience. I really like that for what it is. And I don't hate this. This is, it does use, what do you call that type of battle? Preemptive hits, where you use your sword to attack the demons. And it's pretty nice in that regard. I guess to move on, just in terms of plot, the big plot twist is really once you descend Naruku, there's a huge cutscene where you look out the window, and then you just see like city lights, and everything's kind of dystopian. You kind of hear the music just drop. It's just so surreal. It's one of my favorite moments in the game.
Because like up to that point, you were just tasked with like chasing down the Black Samurai, and they've talked about like they're burning books and like the whole like I guess they're like classic like the fear of like knowledge, like typesetting for like the towns and stuff. But yeah, was it Medusa right before you get there? There's a really tough boss right before you get to that point you're talking about. It took me a while to actually get past, but once I did, and then I got to that moment, I was like, "Whoa!" Because I had no expectations for this game going into it, so I was like, "Yo, this is like this Tokyo down here. This is cool."
Speaking of which, I kind of want to jump a little bit to the real world Japan locations, because once you go into Tokyo, you go to different parts of Japan. These are actual landmarks in Japan versus I think Mikado is just made up. So I'll just read a few of them, and then we can kind of talk about what does this mean and how do we feel as like foreigners playing this as gaijin. But Shinjuku, Shibuya, Roppongi, Tokyo, Ueno. There's a bunch of like little cities and towns that you come on as you kind of traverse the overhead map as like a stick figure. And I don't know. I thought that was really cool because up to this point in playing this game, my knowledge about Japan as a country was very limited. So to see them represented in this game and then for them to become kind of staples in other Atlus games was really cool.
I kind of feel a little bit the opposite way. I feel like there's a bit of I don't know, like it didn't connect to me as much because I don't know these locations. bet if I was Japanese and I knew these locations, this would be super cool. And of course, I know some of the areas, Shibuya, Shinjuku, and stuff by name, just because they're so talked about. But I think it would have hit harder if I actually knew these locations in real life. There was moments where it's like, go to this place, and I was like, where the hell is that? And I had to actually look up on a guide where the hell it was. But if I was from Tokyo, I could probably figure that out. So that was a bit of a disconnect for me.
Yeah, there's an insider bias. I do think that it does work well in terms of the general narrative, because each of these locations generally has a train station. And the reason that's significant is because in this game, the humans are underground. They have built these enclaves in these train stations where they are like foraging for like little supplies. And I don't know if you go into like some of those shops sometimes, but like, there's the tavern. It starts off K's Tavern in Mikado, but then once you get to these places, you go to heal, and the guy's like, hey, can I offer you a drink or something? It's local specialty, ersatz, 100 maca. Then you drink it, and then Jonathan goes like, oh, is this what these filth drink? He doesn't say that exactly, but it's just like, it really puts into context that they look at the residents of Tokyo as like what do they call them? Like, not like fallen angels, but like the kind of, the filth or something. There's a really interesting commentary between this classist commentary. And so I really liked seeing that, and just talking to like, going into like random rooms and just talking to the people who live there and seeing what they're saying about like villagers who are being sacrificed to a demon to prevent them from attacking or something, or the later commentary about like the Reds and giving the pills,
Man, sometimes there would just be some really messed up stuff when you're talking to people, or like talking to demons. Even you would go into a room and it'd be like, yeah, I played this over the course of a year, so I don't know anything exactly, but it'd be like, yeah, we just ate this kid or something. I'd be like, what the fuck? It'd just be like some really messed up stuff sometimes. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. Oh, it is cool to see real world locations represented in a JRPG. I know, other SMT and Persona games also do that. I think that to me sounds like a staple. You'd probably know a little bit more than me, but it is a cool setting for a JRPG.
Yeah, I think it's just limited by the fact that we're playing on the 3DS. So it's like, what can you really depict in the national park? I think like there are like some elements, like a Japanese tower that's erected in like a fish pond. Okay, I get it. It's cool. The music was really what hit home for me. A couple of these locations I really liked. I really liked just traversing on the overworld. So it kind of made me feel at home, even if I don't have like a personal connection to it. We're going to go back and we're going to talk about endings for a second. So Megami Tensei is known for kind of being a branching path narrative, having what we call a morality system. And so it's actually based on your decisions in the game. There are a total of 4 endings in this game: the law ending, chaos, neutral, and nihilistic. The criteria for getting them is different. For law, your actions have to align with Jonathan. For chaos, with Walter. Neutral is considered like the true ending, and that one's more complicated. We'll talk about that in a sec. And nihilistic is basically choosing no ending, just saying, fuck it, take over do what you want, to like those apparitions that appear, like at the latter half of the game. It's really not an ending. I don't even know why, like, it's an option.
The Ocarina of Time ending, right, where Link dies. This game.
It was a waste of it. Yeah, exactly. But in a game now.
In a game, actually personified in a game.
Yeah, they read Historia before they made it.
You know what? That would have been around the same time.
How did you feel about
Onto
the morality system in SMT4?
I touched on it earlier how I liked how it wasn't clear about the choices at times, which is very nice because you just sort of make the choice you would actually want to make and see where it leads you. I got what's it called, the chaotic ending, which is with Walter. Which, I was not surprised by because he was actually my favorite of the cast going through. And I do have a New Game Plus. We'll talk about that later. And for that, I am trying to go for the law ending with Jonathan. And it gives me something to look forward to replaying the game. I like games with multiple endings.
Mm-hmm. I had a similar but different thing happen. So I don't know how it ended up being that I got stuck with Walter because with Jonathan on my first playthrough. It was pretty clear cut that like I knew what options I was picking, like who I was siding with. I found out what happened on my second playthrough. Apparently, to side with one of them, you have to pick whether you're going to go to Naraku or like stay in the dormitory. And I think I had just gone down to Naraku and like not looked at my previous save file, and so I got stuck with Jonathan. I was like, fuck, I gotta get this shitty ending because I hated this guy. Even though it's the law ending, he's just such a snob, like an upper class kind of guy, and I just couldn't relate with him. And it screwed me up for the end of the game. I was like, fuck these guys. They made me like get stuck on this ending. But it was fine. I actually, having gotten the chaos ending, I think I prefer the law ending. I don't know if I want to say too much because you haven't gotten it and you're going for it. But they both contrast really well. The chaos ending's really cool. Essentially, you're either siding with Lucifer or Merkaba. And it's really like, I don't know, like you do get this sense of like, I'm fighting freaking gods here. Now, by the end of the game, I was kind of overpowered anyway, but I just, I remember it being like such a well-earned fight by the end. It wasn't the hardest boss battle I've had to do, but you do have to fight your way up to like level 80 or 85 or so just to finish the damn game.
Wanted the ending where I just got to go get a beer with Isabeau, but that didn't happen.
You got to work for that one.
The ending where you shack up with Isabeau. It's a secret ending.
That's neutral. That's neutral ending. That's technically aligning with Isabeau. Yeah, because otherwise you got to kill her. Let's talk about it. The true ending is the neutral ending. It's the toughest to reach. Can you read to the viewers how to get the neutral ending?
Sure. This ending is the toughest to reach. You already said that. Neutral dialogue choices must be made, which I said is hard to do, which are usually ignoring the problem at hand. That sounds easy to do, actually. In addition to that, several challenge quests must be completed. There's a whole list of quests here. I don't know if you want to go through all these.
That's a lot. Yeah, I don't think we have to name every one.
Look up a guide if you want to know how to do that. But there's a lot of quests here that you have to do for the neutral ending.
Some of these are time sensitive too, so it's really important that you do follow the guide. You can't just like do it randomly. I will say that the dialogue choices, this is hard because there's no gauge on how good or bad you really are. I remember playing like Fable and like you could see like the halo over the guy's head or the Lucifer horns and plus or minus 100. You don't see that, and every action has a moral reaction on your character. There's a range of like plus to minus 200, and your total has to be a range of either -8 to +8 or anywhere in between. And so you really need to be tallying like, did I do something that influenced my character's decision? Some quests influence those decisions or those character growths. So this is not, you really need to be intentional to get this. I've actually been a bit afraid to even try to get this one because I just, I think it's really easy to mess it up. And I don't know that I necessarily want to play with a freaking checkbook, next to me, checklist.
Yeah.
I'm okay with completing some challenge quests. It sucks because I do want to chill with homegirl Isabeau, but maybe it's just not in the cards.
It does sound hard to do. I do appreciate the fact that they don't have like a meter or like a gauge to show you like how good or bad you are, because it just, I feel like with those kind of systems it's a matter of just like leveling up at that point, like, oh, I got another point to my bar. But I like just the choices having like that butterfly effect. But also at the same time, with an ending like this, it sounds a little annoying to achieve because you don't know where exactly you are. So I could imagine wasting an entire run and not getting this ending, which would be agony.
Well, I guess just play it on the New Game Plus. That's probably the easiest way to do it. All right. I don't really want to talk about subquests much, do you?
Yeah, you could do them.
Nah, yeah, you can do them.
There you go.
It's time to get into the meat and potatoes. This is what you're here for, folks. The best demons in Shin Megami Tensei 4. How do you get them? Well, I'm pleased to introduce you to RPG Archive, where we archive RPGs. Me, Alex, Spencer. And we're going to give you some pro tips. But before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of great RPG content for you. Speaking of demons, I'm going to let my demons out and start with negotiation. How do you negotiate with demons in SMT4? Alex, you want to tell us your experience negotiating?
Yeah, you gotta talk to them, which is not an option you usually see in an RPG, right? To talk to somebody instead of fighting them. Which is actually, I find it to be very fun trying to figure out each one of these demons, because negotiating with the demons is how you recruit them. It's kind of like, instead of throwing a Pokeball, you're throwing a word ball at them. And each demon is very different with different personalities. So sometimes you'll have some that are pretty straightforward. It's like, hey, sure, I'll join up if you give me some Maka. You're like, oh, whatever. Or there's some that like to fuck with you. They like ask you questions, and if you don't get the right answer, they're gonna hit you or something. There's a lot of different ways to go about the negotiation process, and some of them can be very tricky.
If I had to describe it in one word, titillating. Nothing gets me more juiced up than throwing 2,000 Maka at a demon, throwing another 2,000 Maka at a demon, and him just being like, bye! But sometimes, sometimes you got to take that risk. And you have to negotiate. You have to negotiate for demons early in the game. It's vital, otherwise you're going to die, like within like the first layer of Naraku. And, you have to take that risk. Get a lot of life stones. You'll get them anyway. Don't be afraid to give away stuff, but use up your good items. If you have like incenses for luck or strength, use them. Don't let a demon negotiate it out of you. You can also cheat in your negotiations. Did you ever mess with that feature?
Yeah, what was it again? It's been a minute. You could like lie to them, right?
Yeah, you can either give what they're asking for, like health, spirit, item, Maka. You could refuse and hope they ask you something easier, or you can cheat. You can pretend to give it to them, and sometimes you can trick them. One thing I frequently cheated with was a demon's life. If they asked me for another demon's life, I'd be like, cheat. I'm not going to let so-and-so die and then you run away. Like, that's crazy. But for something like Maka or Spirit or HP, I'm more forgiving. Like, hell yeah, just take my HP. It doesn't matter. I'll just heal up anyway.
Yeah, and speaking on that note, sometimes demons before battle they'll start talking to you. They'll initiate it, or like, if I'm not mistaken, they'll even like beg sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, yo, hold on, wait, I'll help you out. So, yeah, it really helps to make the enemies feel alive. Again, in a game like this, that's nice because it makes every capture feel fresh and unique, unlike a game like Pokemon where I'm just like, oh, gotta throw the ball at the Ekans again, so it is nice.
Yeah, and the questions are always like these crazy philosophical questions, like, hey, would you sacrifice a demon's life, or do you think I'm pretty? Like it's always these funny things.
I'm playing Strange Journey, and there was one that I got from like a fairy girl that was like, it was like, like, what do you like best about demons? And it was like, they're cool, they're pretty, or like, I don't like demons, you know. And I forgot what I hit. I think I hit they're cool, and she was like, as if, and then like fucking killed me. But but yeah, it's just shit like that where you're like, you're not gonna know the answer. You're just gonna have to like try to figure it out, try to gauge their personality.
Yeah, it's a fun process. Speaking of gauging, you do have to gauge, are you willing to sacrifice your demons to the fusion process? Talk to us about demon fusion. What is it and what's your experience with it?
A demon fusion is where you take two demons and you fuse them together to make a new demon. I'm not as knowledgeable because this is my first time actually playing a mainline SMT game. But I will say that I really enjoyed Fusion system. In fact, I used it all the time because I always wanted to see what I could, what I could create. It's nice that they give you a little preview. It's like, oh, it's going to be this demon and it has this stats and it can do this and you can carry over, whatever. And it's very fun. It's very cool to be able to do that. Again, it's a nice play on this genre where games like Pokemon or Digimon have like the evolutions. It's a nice play to where you have a sense of freedom in choosing which ones you want to fuse together and which monster demon you want to make.
Yeah, and it's really necessary because after a certain point, demons do become useless. They don't gain new skills unless you fuse them. If you just recruit demons, they get like 2 to 3 skills, but if you fuse them, they inherit the skills from the mother and father demons. And there are a couple of things that you're going to customize to increase the stock, the number of demons that you can have, or the number of skills that they can allocate. And so as you get those points and you spend them accordingly, the quality of your fusions is going to go up. You can actually look through the genealogy of the demons that you fused. And when you, like in the late game, you can see that you've got like dozens of demons that this one demon has, has in their ancestry. It's so like super interesting to look at just from a numbers perspective.
I never filled my full stock of demons because I was always fusing them. I was always trying to get new fusions.
It's also really cheap in the app points, which we'll come back to, but to get new stocks. So you start off with like 6, like your kind of typical traditional like Pokemon lineup. But I think you could get like upwards of like 15 or 20. You can do special fusions. Usually there are special requirements to like get that demon as a fusible. So usually it's like beating a mid boss or taking a quest or something. I didn't usually do special fusions because you had to pay an exorbitant amount of Maka to have some of the required demons. But I like the idea. I think if I was going for a second playthrough, I'd be more willing to do a special fusion. But another problem was like they'd have weaker skills. But, in previous SMT games, I have enjoyed using special fusions. Did you have any experience with that?
No, I'm looking now. I didn't really use it too much. Looks like I might have done one. I did one. I was looking at my save file right now. The rest of them are all question marked out because I never bothered with it. Because I was just having fun doing the regular fusions. But that might be something that I explore on my New Game Plus.
Something to look forward to. I want to come back to Compendium in a moment and talk about app points. This is why I didn't really do special fusions as much, because the app points really unlock the game for you. With more app points, you're able to buy things that upgrade either your character or your demons. Now, me personally, I highly recommend upgrading your demons as much as possible, giving them max skills. There's a total of 8 attacks that you can put on a demon, and there's no restriction on what type of attack that you put on a demon. This isn't Pokemon. Charizard can learn Surf if he wants in this game, hypothetically. But in Pokemon, he can't. So I really thought it's important to unlock your demon's abilities because you've got like a huge supply of them, and there's only one of you, and then later come back and upgrade Flynn, your main character. And then also the compendium's really important. And also there's like a +1 feature for all of the skill points on the demons: the strength, magic, dexterity, the luck, and then there's a fifth one I'm forgetting. What was your experience with the app points, and how did you optimize them?
The app points were very useful. I definitely was always using them to unlock or do something. They actually, because I don't have as much RPG experience as you, Spencer, do, so they actually reminded me a lot of Spencer's favorite game, Kingdom Hearts, because that game also has like an ability system that's sort of similar, where you can kind of like assign new abilities over time and you earn more points and stuff. So yeah, it was very cool to be able to just do something as simple as like something that just targets an enemy and lets you see their stats or something. Something simple like that, or it could be as useful as unlocking new stock or anything like that. And it's something that you're going to want to use. You're going to want to use those app points.
Yeah, and you get 10 every time you level up, and there's some items that give you more app points, so it's really nice to get those. I use them in this playthrough, especially on making my demons cheaper to summon in the compendium. It was really useful because oftentimes I wouldn't want to let go of a demon that I had raised up to a certain point, because they'd have all these affinities and these skills, and I'd be like, they're really useful right now, and they're leveling up well. So fortunately, what you have is the demon compendium, where you can summon any demon that you already had in your stock at will, just for the price of some Maka. It is incredibly expensive in the early game, something you cannot afford, but with enough app points and also earned Maka, you can really do a number at summoning these guys. How did you feel about the compendium?
I don't really use it that much. That's something that I kind of looked over, was the compendium. I'm sure if I was super dedicated to SMT and all the demons, I could, and I can look through here and see the monsters and stuff. But it was just, I was happy with the creatures that I created and stuff. I do want to say that I'm looking through my app points, and it looks like I spent a lot of points on for health recovery.
Your mic cut out for 1 second, but you came back. What did you spend points on?
Lowering the cost of demon fusion, and a lot on like health recovery and MP recovery, which was very, very nice for the end game stuff.
I personally didn't invest into those early on because I felt like they were restricting me from a couple things, like the XP boost. I really enjoyed getting extra XP from talking and from fusing, because that would pay itself back in leveling up my character and getting more app points. And then I needed those skills. Like I needed 8 skills on my demons and 8 skills on my main character. But I guess for an early game, yeah, that could be really useful. Any final tips on how to get the best demons in SMT4?
I am a noob, so don't have a lot of tips. I probably have a lot to learn. I'm a young grasshopper.
But nothing worked for you on this run that you want to talk about?
Not really. I just looked at the stats before I fused. That's all I did. I just want to make sure it was going to be worth it for me. Again, I probably should invest more time into learning which fusions are the better ones.
To me, it wasn't so much about what demon am I getting as what resistances am I getting. And you can get you can get skills that give you resistances to certain like attacks. You get like null fire, null physical, things like that. And oftentimes it is a game of compensating for your main character's weaknesses. Of course, you can put armor that like gives you resistances to different things on your main character, but you can't do that for a demon. It's essentially the skill points and what does the demon have innately. Some of my favorite ones were ones that had repel abilities. So there's like a demon that's called Grimme Kala. He's like a big elephant with one eye. and he repels physical attacks. And anytime that the demon attacks you and the attack gets repelled, they lose every other attack in their turn. And so it was super useful to have that on a demon in a turn. Some of the late game skills that are really helpful are Luster, Candy, and Debilitate. And early game, I really liked using Tetrakarn and Makarakarn. Those two repelled physical and magic attacks. And then also Luster Candy boosts every single one of all of your demon stats as well as your main character. And Debilitate does the opposite to the enemy. So it can really weaken them. Status stuff is huge. And then, yeah, I think that's just like a good kind of overall guide on like doing your best with the demons. There is a question about how do you want to build your main character. You can kind of go like either a physical or a magic route or a gun route. We can kind of talk about that now. How did you build your main character in the game to accommodate your needs?
Just to add on to the fusion thing, I did want to say I did pay attention to the resistance, and it's nice to have a little bit of everything because some of those bosses will kick your ass. So keep that in mind. The main character leveling up, I made him a fucking tank. I poured there for a little bit. I was trying to distribute evenly, but towards the end, I just poured it all into strength. He was my muscle for a lot of it, and then I used the demons for a lot of different attacks that weren't physical. That way, I could, I don't know, I guess lead the party. You know, they could help me weaken the enemies, and I could slice them down.
Yeah, the first time I played, I did more of a magic build because it lets you attack in more ways than a physical build does. But I kind of grew to like the physical build because just about everything can be hit physically. And also you can use your main character in more ways than just physical. And you can always kind of pass your turn. But there's some really good like heavy hitting physical attacks. And a lot of demons are like physical hitters as well. So you can either just do a general attack or you can put like these physical abilities on them. I really liked like Javelin Rain. It was a medium power attack that would like attack every enemy on screen. Some of the animations were cool. You'd see like a bunch of like these, raining like arrows like on screen, or I remember some of the fire ones like, burning and you'd hear the sizzle across the screen. So, and then also, it was just nice to see your armor on your character. A lot of goofy combinations. There's like it's like Black Demonica. You can get like this kind of like Kamen Rider hat. I guess that makes sense with like some of the developers now that I've kind of looked back. Or you could do kind of a more traditional like garb. So I really liked seeing like what I could invest in and how it affected my character.
Yeah, I had for most of the game, I had like a biker helmet and like a leather jacket. So, pretty cool.
The gun thing is interesting too. So you can get gun abilities by just inheriting skills, or you can you get a gun like early on in the game. But there's like 3 types. There's like a pistol, a shotgun, and a like machine gun. And one of them is like it could either be like high accuracy or like and a decent hit, or low accuracy but a hard hit. Or it could be like bazooka and kind of do like a burst shot, hit a couple enemies or hit a couple times to random enemies, or it could hit every enemy on screen at once, which is kind of like a trope for all of the attacks, like the physical and the magic. Essentially, like everything's kind of the same here with the exception of light and dark attacks. How did you feel about the attack system?
I didn't use guns that much. I did get a shotgun, but I didn't really use guns that much. Attack system in general, I felt it was pretty clear with how it worked. Being a newcomer, I did like the fact that you could repel attacks and sometimes even like gain additional attacks that way too. It was very cool. It's I just I don't. I mean, do you want to just talk about the combat in general?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about press turn combat.
Okay.
I'll just explain what it is really quickly, and then we can kind of give our feelings. So press turn is kind of emblematic for SMT. I don't know which game it came out in, but the series is kind of known for it. every party member gets a turn, and if you hit a weakness, you get an extra turn. If you miss, or if your attack's resisted, or not resisted but nulled, you lose a turn, even if you had the extra one to begin with. So it kind of makes you think consciously about your attacks, but there's like so many demons, and you're not going to know everyone's resistances. And even across games, they might have like similarities and differences. For instance, a lot of birds tend to be weak to guns, or like Jack Frost is obviously weak to fire. But I think like a fairy or something, you can't really predict if it's like, is it weak to force or lightning? Like, I'm not really sure. And if you're a physical attacker, you're not really hitting weakness, so you need a critical, if you want to get that extra turn. So that's press turn in a nutshell. If it's repelled, you lose your entire round, so that sucks. And also you get hit, so it's an easy way to get set up for a game over.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, like the resistance aspect with the bosses. I found to be very useful because if you try sometimes, but I would understand what the bosses were weak, what I could resist. So a lot of times I would go back and build my team up for that fight, and go in and be able to win that way, because you can easily resist certain attacks with certain demons, or certain builds that you have. So I feel like the combat system's fair and it's easy to understand, as long as you're investing the time, and it's something that it can be used against you, and also you can use it against the enemies.
It's true. It's kind of like you can kind of cheat your way through the game by like saving right before the boss and going into the boss and finding out what they're weak to, and then just like going and redoing it. Me too.
I did.
You kind of have to. You don't have much of a choice. But I think the game really does make you work for it. Like, you got to grind up a couple points. Speaking of grinding up, every time you level up, you get app points, or not app points. You get to like also pick. You get app points, but you also get to pick which like skill set you want to invest in: strength, dexterity, magic, agility, or luck. So what was you put everything in strength, but like once you were done with strength, where did you put your points?
Well, no, it was the opposite. I tried to distribute evenly, and then towards the end game, I put everything into strength.
Oh, okay. I will say that I think luck has like no value. I don't think like it really affects anything, so don't waste your time.
I wasted those. Glad I wasted all those points.
That's how I felt too. Agility affects your evade rates and your hit rates, and also I think like if you attack first in battle or something. So I like doing agility. Really, it was just like strength, agility, and then I also did a little bit of dexterity, because dexterity also affects like physical attacks for some reason, as well as gun attacks. It's very strange. I didn't understand why, but it did affect your physical strength. So that might be a way to go, but it wasn't very clear. But definitely a unique leveling up system, as well as kind of just, it really does seem like the game throws a lot of like things for you to consider. But I think it is, for the most part, self-explanatory. I don't think it's too convoluted.
I think it's manageable. I think maybe if this is like your first RPG, or like RPG in general, it might be a little much. But if you've played a few RPGs, it's nothing you can't understand.
Yeah, if you've been around the block a couple times.
No, if you played a couple of games,
If you played a Mario game.
I've played a Pokemon. We did Final Fantasy VII. I understand.
Speaking of being around the block, we've beaten around the block SMT4, and we got New Game Plus options. There are two: Reincarnation Restart and New Life Start. Reincarnation Restart is where you restart the game with all of your stuff, except for the demons themselves, I think. Yeah. You get the protagonist level. You get all of your app points, all of your maca, all of your equipment, and all of your items. And your demon compendium carries over, so you can summon them at any time. New Life Start only starts you off with your compendium. So let's talk about the implications of these a little bit. What is Reincarnation Restart like for you? Because you're playing
It's
it
the one I'm
now.
current.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm currently on. I'm not too far in though, like maybe like a good 10 hours. But, I'll tell you what though, if you like desserts, get ready because this is fucking cake. A lot of the earlier fights so far have been nothing. I just mowed them down. I've had boss fights where, like, I remember playing it for the first time and being like, "Man, this is hard." Where I just started playing and it's just like use like one attack from my main character and they're just down for the count. But on the flip side, leveling up is harder for the main character, not for the demons. The demons, you do that a couple times, and it's like XP share. The demons just fucking level up super quick. But the main character, it's gonna take you a little while to level up that way. Um, but for me, I'm not as interested in the harder battles now. I'm more interested in getting the story elements. So I think playing it in this perspective going to be a little easier, and plus I can just work on trying to get the other ending that I want to get.
That's a good point. I think like for the narrative seeker, that's a good thing. To me, the narrative is more meaningful if I kind of work through it. I feel like I don't know if I want to cheese my way through it because like I like kind of like feeling like I earned every moment in the game. There's a lot of heartfelt ones for me, like a lot of deep stuff. Some of it's a bit ambiguous towards the end, but I can see in your perspective why you appreciate Reincarnation Restart. I just don't want to taint my experience of this, like the whole game by doing that. Maybe one day
Well,
if I want to do the neutral ending.
haven't you earned it though?
Did I earn a cakewalk? I don't
Yeah.
I don't
Haven't
know.
you built your character up to that point? Did
Yes,
you
but I think like
earn
my
to be that strong?
perspective is more like I genuinely kind of enjoy the grind. And so I feel like I earned another spat at it, you know?
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'm more interested in getting the ending and trying to fuse different demons.
You
So
know,
I don't know.
it's almost like playing if you were playing like Country Returns with like the Invincicong, you
Yeah,
know? Like I don't
Golden Kong, right? How his name was.
yeah. I don't necessarily want to do that. Um it's just like I would rather just be better at the game because I know the game. Like I don't know. But I
That
get
makes
it.
sense.
I get why in an RPG hour intensive thing like that makes sense. I just like New Life Start. I kind of given up on the dream of getting like a full compendium. I had tried that for SMT5 and then it just got kind of lost in the weeds with like all of like the you can only get these demons when you're on this path. And so I don't think that's as important to me, but I think the experience as a whole for this game kind of is. All right. I kind of want to grab another water bottle before we do the legacy. Is that all right?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. What are you going to provide to the viewers?
I'll just plug the you've been watching this long, so obviously you like the content. Don't forget to please subscribe to RPG Archive. Spencer needs it. He was telling me in private that if the show fails, he's going to give it to me, and you don't want me to have the show. I'm going to talk about dumb shit like Kingdom Hearts all day. So give Spencer all the love you need, all the love he needs for this great channel that he runs over here. RPG fans. Anomalies.
All you need.
All you need.
Do.
Again, if you don't, I'm going to talk about stupid Kingdom Hearts games all day, which I could do because I've played them all. So you don't want that.
You can also, if you do want that, you can check out Alex on his channel, Turbo Zone.
Well, I don't have any Kingdom Hearts content over there, so sorry.
Subscribe for the future, just in case.
Yeah, I'll talk about Kingdom Hearts. Who knows? Maybe one day I will host Kingdom Hearts over here. I don't know who the hell I'll do it with, but maybe me. Maybe one man show.
Sounds good. All right, we're going to talk about this. We're going to conclude here on the legacy of Shin Megami Tensei 4. We got a couple things that we want to talk about. The first of which is the game's sequel, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. It exists. I don't have too much information offhand. I think it came out in like 2016 or so. And it was kind of the unofficial Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's very much its own game. What do you think about the existence of the sequel as like a legacy?
Having played SMT4 and having it take me a year, I've had Apocalypse sitting on my DS right under it because I haven't downloaded. I also have not Strange Journey, Soul Hackers downloaded, but Apocalypse I've been wanting to start. Having played SMT4 and knowing how long it took me, it literally took me a year. Like I think I started in like March and ended in like March, so it took me a full year. I played across two different handhelds. I started on my classic red 3DS, and then while we were on vacation, Teddy gave me a blue 2DS, and I switched over, and now I'm on a completely different. I have a 2DS XL now, a new 2DS XL. So yeah, how long and how much of an investment that was. I've been staring at Apocalypse for I don't know, about 6 months now, and I've just been like terrified. I think one night I like started it, played for like 10 minutes, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm not ready.
Oh man.
Strange Journey, I'm just playing. I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not. But if I go into Apocalypse, I want to dedicate, time to it. So,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for it.
Let me know, man. I mean, I'd love to boot it up again. I need to re-download it. I had sold my copy for like $100 when I needed some money. But I don't know if I liked it as much as 4. They're like in a narrative sense, but there are like quality of life stuff that I kind of liked a little better. The cast was a little weirder. My memory of everything was a little more spotty, but I remember some hard battles, some really cool 3D exploration, some good music. This game SMT4 has good music, but so did Apocalypse. So I was happy to see it not pale in that comparison. And I am kind of glad it exists on the platform. It's the 3DS has a lot of RPGs, but I think those darker and grittier ones, not necessarily. So even just like another mainline SMT game is kind of a good thing. And to me, it kind of is like the real SMT5, because SMT5 is really cool, but it feels like more tech demo-y than it does like a complete game. Apocalypse feels more like a complete game. So it's kind of like a 4 versus 4 Apocalypse comparison.
Yeah. I want to get to it. Maybe I'll start it soon. And like I said, I thought about it, and I like loaded up, and I just look at the title, and I'm like, oh.
Another year.
Yeah, another year. Here we go.
Speaking of which, let's compare SMT4 to some of the other entries in the Megami Tensei series. And I know you're not as familiar with all of them, but we could kind of talk about like, especially versus Nocturne. I know you played it for like a little bit, like a couple minutes, so you know what like Nocturne looks like. You've heard me talk about it a lot, and then also to Persona in general. How does SMT4 compare to some of the ones that you're familiar with?
Oh, I've invested time into Persona 5 and The Strange Journey. And probably, I think I've put more time into Persona 5. I haven't beat it, but I put more time into Persona 5. I've put like 6 hours into Strange Journey. And Nocturne, I played like 30 minutes, maybe. I just wanted to try it out for a minute. And the comparison is, I think, for me, not Persona 5, I think, is a more... I don't know. It's different. I don't know if I want to consider this like talk about the Persona games, because it's very much a different experience. But just talking SMT and what I've experienced, I think 4 is the most polished I've played, and I kind of regret not playing this when it came out. Of course, I didn't know really much about the series at that point. I was playing Monster Hunter and shit all the time, which I still do, but SMT was just not on my radar. And I'm sure back then, if I would have tried this game, I would have loved it. So and it's been a sort of a gateway for me to get into the SMT series. I think so. I think right now I would probably say I like SMT4 more than Persona, but 5. But I think Persona 5 does do certain elements better.
And I think we should clarify too. You've played a bit into 5, but you're not done with it, so that could change.
That's true.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. I mean, like SMT4 kind of like was groundbreaking to me. And I feel like Nocturne is really cool in like an artistic sense, but I feel like there's something graspable about Shin Megami Tensei 4. Like I've kind of like avoided too much spoiler intensive stuff, but I just remember this one moment where you're watching them harvest children in like a laboratory.
I was talking about earlier.
Freaking, why are they're raising them so they can like harvest their brains to create demon like pills to feed the demons so they don't attack their bases. And this is how Tokyo has been running in a safe quote unquote safe manner, in a way like where people they're not completely overrun. And you have to decide, do you want to overthrow the whole system or do you want to keep it going? And then either way shit's gonna hit the fan, but it's technically your good and bad path. And I don't think another game in this series has really made me feel like that sense of gravity, like, yo, this is all at the push of a button for me. Literally and figuratively, like you're holding a controller in the game. Like you see Flynn like with the remote. They keep replaying the scene where he's got a remote and they find the remote, but you're literally holding a 3DS and going to press a button that dictates your fate. And I don't think any other entry in the series has been so realized in like this kind of like meta commentary way. And just compared to like a lot of games I've played, I don't really see that. Like, and I don't know. It really resonates with me so much. It's so cool.
Those are the kind of games that I like. That's why I think I really got into SMT4 over other RPGs. I went through a stint there where I was just trying games, and I still am just trying. I'd like to dip my toes in RPGs. I get to give them a few different tries. Even if I'm not, keen on playing like a Dragon Quest game once, I want to go back and try it again because I just want to see if there's something there for me. And SMT4 hooked me in that aspect because again, a lot of those elements remind me of something like Yoko Taro, where it is just weird, fucked up shit that really like it. Sometimes it can kind of churn your stomach a little bit. I found that to be more interesting than like the story of a hero. I like when games try to push the boundaries, and I feel like there's certain aspects of SMT4 and its narrative that do push the boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. How would you compare this to the other RPGs on the 3DS?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the guy to ask, but let's talk about it. I played a lot. Like I said, I'm still kind of testing the waters. You wouldn't count it as RPG. But I guess if you do, the most I've played on the 3DS, most time I've spent is again Monster Hunter. But I don't know if you count that as an RPG. But in terms of like JRPGs in general on 3DS, I'm not as experienced. This is actually the first RPG I beat. You can't beat Monster Hunter. And it was a very rewarding experience. And I have other SMT games lined up. I've played like Pokemon games on 3DS and didn't really get into them. And I've been playing some of the Fire Emblem Echoes, and stuff. But I think this is a really well polished game. Like I said earlier, it feels like a console game almost in your hands, and I feel like was part of like the love for 3DS games, especially early on, was like to have a console experience in your hands. So I feel like this game kind of rises above just being like a handheld RPG.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, because I think if you compare it to some of the other ones, like even some of the Sega ones, which we didn't really talk about, but this was pre-Sega acquisition of Atlus. So it's like one of the last authentic Atlus games. But like I think of like Seventh Dragon 3 Code VFD, which is basically just like a dungeon crawler. It's like not that complex. I really think that the Atlus games are I don't know if it's all pre-Sega, but like even Etrian Odyssey has kind of a darkness to it. I actually think that this game is an extension of the original Etrian Odyssey concept in a way. But I really think it stands in a league of its own because it is kind of blending this traditional, this classic, like this, like, look at the pictures on the screen kind of like art style with, okay, now go in a 3D dungeon and explore. Like, and also like with this, like this a larger than life kind of like narrative and where you are like the major player, like the world is very you centric. The best experiences I can think of on 3DS by comparison would probably be within the Dragon Quest or the Fire Emblem series. And I mean, even then, I mean, it's like what, both Dragon Quest 7 and Dragon Quest 8. You know, 7's really a really cool experience. I think 8 is a lot of people's favorite, and that one's heartfelt in some ways as well, but in a kind of a different, more like kind of like you kind of get affection for these characters. You don't really get affection for like anyone other than maybe Isabeau, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fire Emblem's more like, it has become more waifu simulator as the years have progressed. And, but that's really started with Awakening, you know, in a sense. But the strategy elements are really cool. And like, those are cool narrative, games in their own right as well. I just think it's in a league of its own. I think it's like it kind of really embraces that kind of like dystopian sci-fi mythological kind of genre that really is lacking otherwise.
Yeah, I like I said, I wish I played this earlier because my RPG experience on the 3DS, especially early on, was almost non-existent. Again, Monster Hunter, I wouldn't count that. That's like a different type of RPG. That's like a weird game. But I love those games. But like in terms of just classic RPGs, I think have anything to latch on to. I'm sure if they would have made like an actual Final Fantasy, I would have played that. But like they didn't. They had that shitty Final Fantasy Adventure or Explorers game that I bought. I literally bought that game and took it back the same day. It was bad. But yeah, I didn't have anything to like latch onto RPG wise. I played like I played Project Cross Zone, which,
That's like an RPG.
which I just want to say, I hope me and Spencer archive that one day because that would be fucking hilarious. That game was stupid. But yeah, that was the closest I had to like a traditional RPG at the time. I know for a fact that I would have dug this back then.
For sure. Well, fortunately, we have played it today and in this modern day. Do you think that it's been almost 10 years now? It's 2022. SMT4 came out in 2013. It's time for a remake. Is it possible?
I think the question for me is, does it need it? I think the answer a little more complicated. Remake, I don't know, but maybe a HD port or something, you know, like a HDified version, possibly. I feel like some of the elements could be improved on, especially like the map exploration and stuff, but I feel like the game as a whole is pretty solid, so I don't know if there's a need to like remake it from the ground up. But if there was a way for them to bring the game over to Switch with some improvements, kind of like they've done, you know, with Nocturne and stuff like that, maybe I could see that working, and it again would help to get this game out there to a bigger audience. You know, tons of people are buying random shit on the Switch now, so yeah, I could totally see them pushing this on the Switch.
Yeah, and you know, I think the need question is really interesting because from a fiscal perspective, it's almost needed at this point. It's just a restock. You know, there's really weren't that many copies that were sold in North America. I think like in Japan alone, it was like half the sales at the least, and there was a global sales of like 600,000. And also the 3DS shops going out. You know, so after March, I think, next
Like
year,
March, yeah,
you're not going to be able to download this game. And then also the physical version is kind of pricey from what I've seen. So like it would. I think it would just be a travesty if this just gets lost to time because people can't afford to play it and they didn't download it in time. And I guess 3DS emulators are a thing now, but I don't think it should have to come to that. I really do hope that Atlus doesn't let this end Apocalypse and pretty much all their 3DS RPGs. The Etrian Odyssey is a little different because you got to draw the maps. But I don't think this is that complicated where you can't do that. SMT5 is really freaking beautiful, like with the Unreal Engine. And so like to think about like Flynn going like around Mikado and Tokyo and it being more open world and seeing the demons on screen could be awesome. And just throw a couple more subquests in there. I'm all on board for a full-on remake. There's no news of it, but I think that give it a year or two, this is something that people could clamor for.
Yeah, I think in terms, for one, if you want this game and you have a 3DS, keep an eye out because Atlus put those. I guess Sega now they put those games on sale sometimes, and you can get them for like $10. So keep a fucking eye out because that's all I got these games. Yeah, in terms of the remake aspect, I think the thing for me is that I would want this game to be as accessible as possible, and I think the game is. I don't have any issues with the game in this current state. In its current state, I would love to see like a beautiful remake, but my concern would be wasting time and resources on a remake when they could be working towards another brand new game. And then just bringing this over in its current state with some fixes, and maybe charging it, and instead of charging $60 for a new game, charging $30 or $20 on the eShop. That could be something that I think would help to make this game more accessible for an audience, because somebody's more likely to buy a game they haven't heard of for $20, $30 than $60.
It'd be cool is if they did like the Dragon Quest XI S treatment, where it's like you could play either the old version or the new version. I actually have been scouring the 3DS eShop for those Atlus sales because I want to download every single one of them, and I missed the boat because like I've been checking since September, and that shop's going down in March, and my timer's ticking, and I'm a little worried that the service is going to get flooded. So
the only company that I've seen consistently do sales has been Capcom.
Yeah, Capcom, Phoenix Wright, baby.
They do them like every other week, but there for a while Atlus was doing them a lot because like I said, I got those 3 games and I was considering getting no I got 4 games because I got one of the Etrian games. I was considering getting more if they ever put them back on sale.
Yeah, speaking of pricey, those I would download if you can. So let's kind of close off here on just like a final thoughts and review for SMT4. What's it like playing this game in 2022, and how do you feel about it?
Feel like this was an experience that I'm probably not going to get again. The thing with playing games on the 3DS compared to playing it on a Switch is that the 3DS is very portable and compact. Something that I like in a portable. The Switch is portable almost in name only. Like you gotta like carry it in a carrying case, and sure the screen doesn't get scratched up and stuff. I feel like I had a very nice experience because I played it on the 3DS. That I really, it's just nice to be able to take the game with me wherever I am, pop it out, play a little bit, put it back on sleep mode, put it back in my pocket. Yeah, I fucking love this game. Like I said, I think it's acted as a gateway for me to get into the FMT series. Now I am actively interested in playing the series, which is nice because I haven't really had an RPG series that I've been that way with. The closest I've come to is Final Fantasy, but even then, they make mistakes a lot, and they can't be trusted. So. Even with that, I haven't really had an RPG series to latch onto, so maybe SMT is what I'm going to be playing going forward, and SMT4 really got me into it. I think the game's it's beautiful, it's got a great narrative, it surpassed expectations at points, and it's very addictive.
Yeah, you played this game really comfortably too. Like you didn't play this with like a timestamp in mind, like I have to finish it by this date. You just played it. You brought it to work. I remember you texted me like, just I'm fusing demons or grinding up a bit. So Yeah, I'm
I
really
remember
glad that you enjoyed it.
I downloaded it, asked both you and Spencer. I was like, should I get this? And I remember, I think you said yeah, but um, one of you told me something. It was like hesitant about like if I would actually finish it or not. You know,
Mm.
um, it, which is something that it always worries me going into playing an RPG. Is that like, am I going to get invested? Am I just wasting my time? Because I'll just drop a game. But, I this game I beat it. I played through the full game. It took me about 40 hours, and I had a great time doing it.
Yeah, it's really testament. Alex finished this RPG. That means it's good. Like that's, you'd be quick to drop it. So I'm really happy that you stuck through it. To me, this game, it's in my top 10. It's just so, it's one of those like games that like is really impressionable. I remember so many things about it. If you play me a song from the game, I could tell you where I was at one point while playing the game. And lately I've been doing a lot of stuff on mute, but this is one where I feel like I gotta play the game with the voice acting and the music. It's just that good. I think it's a real piece of art. I think it's expert narrative writing. And of course, the systems are really cool. I like the gameplay, but the game is more than that to me. That's why SMT5 didn't click in the same way. I still I'm excited you want to get more into the Mega 10 games. And I think that Nocturne has interesting like narrative elements, whereas like maybe not the most refined gameplay. Whereas 5 has like some of the best gameplay, but not the best narrative elements. So I'm interested to hear how you feel about each of those. And then Apocalypse, I think, is kind of more of this like just like best of both worlds. And so, I think it's got an amazing legacy as a 3DS RPG. It's the best Megami Tensei game I've played, with the Persona games coming close with their narratives. And I think it's really special to me. So I'm glad I could be here to archive it with you today.
I hadn't really thought about it, but it probably would go in my top 5 RPGs. There with like, I don't know what the hell I put up there with it, Nier and like Final Fantasy 12. Fight me, everybody.
And Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter, if you count that. I don't know if you count that.
You gotta ask Spencer.
It's not. It's got stats. Kinda. I don't know. It's weird.
Okay, are the Yakuza games not Like a Dragon, but all the rest of them, are they RPGs?
I think that Like a Dragon definitely is, but I think before that, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of iffy. Okay.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's a bag of worms.
Worms. Good old worm bag.
Is Worms an RPG?
Worms.
Worms Rumble.
Yeah, this was fun. Like I said, it's been a while since I've been on this channel doing anything, mainly because I'm not an RPG guy. So there's not a lot of times where where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll hop on Dragon Quest 6 or whatever, because I don't know anything about fucking Dragon Quest 6. So I was happy to be able to do this. I was excited to come back to the channel. I do have ideas for returning to this channel, and I hope to some point in the future. So
Good stuff. I will be on Dragon Quest 6 coming soon. But yeah, Alex, this was a real pleasure. I'm glad we could do this together. So pleasant archiving. And to the viewers at home, with the SMT4, you can consider it archived.
sorry, archived. I was going to say map.
You want to do it?
It's wrong.
Do it.
It's the wrong channel.
Oh. Map out. Never. That's not happening.
No. The SMT4 map out.
It'll be a 24-hour episode.
We're going to split it up into 5 parts.
It'll be a year-long process. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you later.
Yeah.